And Sabrina joins us now. Morning, Sabrina.
Good morning.
This story, Sabrina, is incredible. So first things first, tell us about this new documentary, Prince William, Weekend and Homelessness, and how you got involved in it.
Oh, do you know, I'm so excited about this. The documentary focuses on the first year of his new programme, Homewoods. And the aim of Homewoods is to try to make homelessness brief, rare and unrepeated. And I was approached by the Prince's team to become an advocate. And the point about being an advocate is he wanted people with lived experience of homelessness to help to advise him. And I experienced homelessness when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And as part of this, we were set a task and he asked us to go out and try and find solutions, things that are out there that work to help to end homelessness. And so in the documentary, I go and I meet a couple of people and a couple of projects that have been really, really working well. And I'm able to take them then to the Prince so that he can see for himself what's out there that works.
Work on the ground, yeah.
Sabrina, you are the advisor to the future king. What is that like working with him? What's he like to work with?
Oh, he's amazing. And I'm one of several advocates and we've all got our own experience of homelessness or be touched by homelessness in some way. And one of the things that he was really keen on is making sure that he's listening to people who've been there so that we can try and do things that are really practical. And every time I've met the Prince, he has been so focused on the human impact of homelessness. And I think it's really easy when you're trying to do a programme as big as this and a challenge as big as ending homelessness to just focus on the strategy and forget about the people.
Yeah.
But he's so focused on the trauma and the complexity and the impact on individuals. And that, for me, has been a real privilege to be able to see that in action.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because I work with him on Earthshot, and it's both hard to not drink the Kool-Aid, but really important not to drink the Kool-Aid. Because actually, it's easy for us to go, well, he's just a big privileged guy sat in a palace, right? And part of that is true, but what impressed me about him was that, like, he's aware of that privilege, and he doesn't mind getting his hands dirty, and you know, he's aware of the kind of the double standard and all of this, but at the same time, he wants to do something about it and use his voice for it.
Yeah, and what would you rather?
Right.
As a monarch, he's using his platform to convene people, to challenge a social problem. That's amazing. I'm really, really proud to be able to say that we can be a part of that.
Can we rewind a little bit to the age of 15? I know your daughter's the same age right now.
Frighteningly,
she's 15.
yeah.
And you've given her such an incredible life that she hasn't gone through the life that you had to lead. Take me back to when you was 15. I know you'd sadly your father passed away when you were a lot younger.
Yeah.
What were the circumstances that led to you becoming homeless?
It's circumstances that many people, I'm sure, will recognise. I grew up in a single-parent household. We lived in poverty. And my mum really struggled with her mental health. And one thing I always say is that if someone goes to war with their demons, it's everyone around them that gets hit by the shrapnel. And that was absolutely the case for us. And by the time I was 15, nearly 16, to be honest, it was too much. It was too volatile. It was too hard. And I ended up sleeping rough on the streets of Newport, which, of course, is one of the Homewoods areas that the programme focuses on. It was really hard. I would sleep in shop doorways. I'd sleep in derelict buildings, anywhere where I could find, really. And in truth, there were glimpses of kindness from people, but I've been punched and kicked and spat at.
Really?
The cruelest of things. It was really, really difficult. But one of the things for me that's really exciting about Homewoods, and we touch on it in the documentary, some of the people that looked after me the most and gave me the most compassion at that time were a demographic that people would recognise as an entrenched rough sleeper, usually an older guy, 50s, 60s maybe, and it's the kind of person that might have been rough sleeping for ages that everyone's kind of written off. People would cross the road to avoid them, but they really, really helped me. And in the documentary, we're able to touch on that and look at programmes that focus on those entrenched rough sleepers.
That's unbelievable.
How did you turn it round? Because you were still at school, so you were literally hiding your backpack, going to sleep, going to school, coming back, sleeping in wherever you could sleep.
Studying as well.
Yeah. And then you got a Job Selling Big Issue, which is obviously an incredible institution, magazine. And then did that give you the foothold to be able to get yourself out of that?
Yeah, it did. I was terrified of going into care. We had a social worker, and when you grow up in an environment like that, you kind of see any kind of authority through a lens of mistrust.
Yeah.
I thought it would be like some kind of Dickensian workhouse, and I wanted to avoid it. So I carried on going to school and tried to pretend that everything was OK. Selling the Big Issue was a real turning point for me, though, because I don't know if people know, but when you see people selling the Big Issue, they've already bought those magazines. So it's like you buy in your stock and you sell it on for a profit. And that, for me, gave me an ability to try to earn something. And eventually, I was able to put down a deposit on a very cheap rented flat in the South Wales Valleys, away from where I was. Had a couple of false starts, including a bit of time living in a van. It's not as easy as just having a roof over your head. There is a real recovery from homelessness, and it wraps up your sense of identity. You don't know who to trust. You have had such difficult experiences that you take that on board as part of your lens and how you see yourself. And unpacking that is really tricky. I mean, it took me nearly 20 years to start talking about my experience. There's that stigma. And I hope that some of the work that we can do with Homewoods can reframe the narrative around homelessness. So hopefully we can break down that stigma and the recovery from homelessness won't be so difficult for other people.
Why did you struggle to talk about it? Was it the shame of being homeless? Is that the reason? Because I know you wrote a book, didn't you?
I did, yeah. And being really kind of open about that was important to me because it's something that I'd hidden for so long.
Yeah.
But I think I was afraid that people would judge me, and God forbid I was afraid people might pity me, which was even worse than the judgment. But, you know, it's exhausting hiding a really big part of yourself. As, you know, many people have done with other factors of their lives. It's really difficult. So, you know, people would kind of ask questions about growing up and I'd kind of, you know, just shelve it off and change the subject. But I always felt that kind of sicky feeling in the pit of my stomach. And one of the things that I heard, which is so true, is poverty isn't something that you can wash from your skin. It's really not. And it's something that you carry with you. So when I joined the fire service, and there are, you know, all these kind of amazing people who kind of always knew what to do and say, I always felt less than. So it was quite a tough environment to go into when you have something that makes you feel so vulnerable. But, you know, since opening up about it, there are a number of firefighters who've got in touch with me to say that they've experienced homelessness as well. And they're now in the fire service, no one would know. And I promise you, there are more people out there who've been touched by homelessness in some way than we give each other credit for. And I do think it's time to start talking about it.
Sabrina, what would a future without homelessness look like? How, I mean, you know, I was reading the notes, you touched on the Finnish model a little bit, and what they're doing in Finland. So can you explain what would you do if you were given a carte blanche?
Yeah, and I think it's going to be different in different locations. And that's the point with Homewoods, is we've got a number of target locations so that we can look at what works. But for me, what I've seen working in the sector, the most beneficial is a real individual, tailored approach. It's really difficult with a finite amount of resources out there to be able to make sure that you're getting the resources in the right places to do the right things. And like I said, it's not as simple as just a roof over your head. There are so many complexities around recovering from homelessness. And one of the things that we did find that worked really well, that I could imagine that kind of approach really helping to unpack this problem, was housing first. And the point about that is they put someone in a house first, and you are allowed to fail.
Yeah.
People can fail if they have a drug habit. In other schemes, if you fall and you end up going back on drugs, then you're kind of out of the programme, or you might lose your housing. With housing first, they say, no, this is your secure base first, and they wrap that support around the individual for everything that they might need, helping them to get registered with a doctor again. Absolutely, everything that you might need. And just that permission to fail and that support to know that you're going to get back up again and there's going to be someone there, that for me is a real kind of pinnacle of what success could look like.
Well, you're the pinnacle of success as far as I'm concerned. Thank you so much for joining us. You're
one more question, we're a bit over.
Inspiration.
What do you want people to take from this when they watch this doc? So, you know, you've had this incredible experience. So people that haven't, most people haven't, they'll be watching at home. What do you want them to take from it?
I really want them to see homelessness as an experience and not as an identity.
Yeah.
And I really think that will help us to break down some of the stigma around it.
Yeah.
But please see the value in people. It's so easy to write someone off because it looks like they're stuck in that life and it's too entrenched and someone's too far gone. Nobody's too far gone. Everybody has value.
Yeah.
So I hope they just think about it differently.
And it can happen to anybody.
It really can.
Sabrina, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every single day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the morning.